it's rare. Trust me, it's rare to have a group of coaches, and whether it's analytical guys or front office guys, to really get into heated discussions anymore. That used to be the thing.
Joe Maddon, World Series winning manager, joining us right now. You've got his podcast, To the Book of Joe, which I highly recommend. Two of the smartest minds in the biz, Joe Maddon and Tom Verducci, who you've heard on the sidelines for Fox. Joe, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us for 10-ish minutes here to talk ball. How you doing? And are you excited for this little heavyweight matchup we're about to see?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Goes back to the Brooklyn Dodgers and Yankees back in the day in Manhattan and Brooklyn. It is probably the right way to do this. The two best teams are going to participate. They're kind of like they're trending, both trending in the right direction simultaneously too. So it should be entertaining. I think it's going to be an heroic series where a lot of late inning kind of things happen offensively to one way or another. The games are going to flip, but I think it's going to be very entertaining. I think it's one of the best things for baseball right now to put this kind of foot forward.
All right, so then I want to bring you into the conversation we were just having about Dave Roberts and his bullpen usage from the entire postseason. I was explaining how, I mean, it's not due to strategy as much as it's due to lack of starting pitching depth. And while you're at it too, thoughts on the Carlos Mendoza's usage of the bullpen, because he had to go so early into that pen yesterday. And I kind of thought of you with the Cubs World Series when I explained to people how the circle of trust starts to narrow. And if you've got to fill that void for 7 more innings, you're going to be in some trouble usually.
Yeah, when you have to keep plugging the holes in the dike, man, it's not easy when you have to do it often. It's okay once in a while, but when it's on a regular basis, it's very difficult. These guys, I've talked about this before. Relief pitchers are held to an impossible standard of perfection. They are. Everybody wants and believes a bullpen arm needs to be perfect every time out. And furthermore, the manager has to make these perfect decisions also. You can make the best decision in the world and it doesn't work, but you're going to be criticized for that. So it's unusual, like for the Dodgers, to have this many solvent arms that are like, I call them even our head guys. There's different kind of relief pitchers, guys you want to put in the game when the score is tied or you're ahead. And there's others that you want to put in the game when you're behind because you're going to see a better result out of that group. So this group of relief pitchers, that's part of it. To have that many, nobody has that many. It's very difficult to have that many arms that you could trust and rely on in that situation. And that's a tribute to the system itself. I mean, I've known Andrew for a long time, and this has been talked about among them and Brandon Gomes, that they've been talking about this for a bit. There's no doubt in my mind. They knew the dearth of starting pitchers. They knew that they were not going to be able to compete starting-wise at this time of the year, so they started building this group up, having guys appear earlier in the series, even though it didn't seem to make sense. They brought some young guys in just to get their feet wet, knowing that this was going to be more critical later. So it's unusual. You don't have that many. The only way this is going to happen in a regular season if you expand rosters or if you go down to 3 starters and 10 relievers at least on your roster decisions during the course of the season. But to have relief pitchers pitch this often, 2 things: they're not going to make it. Number 2, they're not going to be this perfect.
Or hey, Joe, you could just change the allowance for time on the IL, and you could just be like, oh, well, we're going to put a pitcher on the IL for 10 days and send them down to AAA. Manipulate it that way. When you watch these games, who do you feel like – I don't want to say who do you feel like did the best, because you can say, Doc did the best, the Dodgers are in, Booney did the best, the Yankees are in. Who made the moves that you were most in sync with when you were watching these games going, yes, that's exactly when I would have done that?
Well, like you talk about what Voter did the other night early in the game, and I know that was really something that you don't normally do. When you're in an elimination situation, you have to be pressed to do different things earlier in the game. So Voter brought in Smith early, and that was to face Judge right after they walked Soto. So that's the kind of thing you have to. In order to do things like that, you have to discuss that before the game begins. That's not extemporaneous. You just don't think about that in the moment of, hey, let's do this. Because different people have to be alerted because they're going to be asked to do things that they're not normally used to doing. So this is something that's a discussion before the game ever begins. So when you get to elimination, all the chips are out there. Everything you could possibly think of to do, you do. We were with the Indians. We were down 3-1 going into game 5 in Chicago, win that, and eventually win 2 more games in Cleveland. There's no game 8. There's There's no game 6. There's no game 7. There's definitely no game 8. So you just do things that you think you have to do in a moment to work. Almost 100% of the time, discussed them in advance, i.e. John Lester coming in that game. That was discussed very heavily the day before, to the point, don't even think about it. We used 3 catchers in that game. It went from Wilson to David to Miggy, and that was all discussed well in advance. So a lot of this stuff is choreographed, and then theory and reality have to come together. It normally doesn't occur where theory and reality match up, but you have to have these things prepped in advance. Everybody has to be alerted, because you really don't want to pull the alarm when nobody's expecting it.
Hey, Joe, I want to ask you about Giancarlo Stanton and what he was able to do in that past series. At any point, if you would have been in that dugout, would you have made Judge beat you, or Wells or Jazz, with as hot as Stanton was? Or what do you think about the situation? I know he has that swing and miss factor, but
sure. With the last home run he hit, obviously they got ahead with some breaking balls away. But here's for me. I mean, who's ever pitching for you, you're counting on him to throw the pitch that Stanton's not going to be able to reach. So then you have to have really a lot of confidence in the command of that pitcher in that moment. I've been faced with that, where when you don't really have that kind of confidence in the pitcher's command that he can, intentionally walk somebody by not throwing a ball over the plate, then go ahead and do it. And that would normally be a real veteran pitcher. Again, I could use Johnny Lester. You've talked about Kershaw, Bumgarner, guys like that they know what they're doing, and they're not going to make the mistake that the Cleveland pitcher made. So that to me was a perfect example of when to walk Stanton. I mean, the guy is absolutely on fire right now, and that's anti-analytical in a sense, because analytics does not like intentional walks, even though you're seeing them becoming more profound right now. It's happening more often because it's becoming, I guess the analytics always changes too. It's a fluid situation. It's not static. And so you're seeing more of that. But to me, when he hit that home run to tie the game up, to me, that was a perfect opportunity to move it on to the next. I think Jazz was sitting behind him, and you could just see Jazz is not on top of his game right now where the other guy is. So that would have been an easy get, I think, to just let that one go. But when you're talking about walking somebody to pitch to a Soto, or walking the Soto to pitch to Judge, or walking somebody to pitch now to Stanton, it's difficult. So that's when a lineup is good, when you have that kind of protection.
How contentious do those meetings get? Those meetings you're talking about, building the script for you for the World Series against the Indians. For you, is there another meeting then that goes on? Hey, game 5 we lost. We have to rewrite the script for 6 and 7 because we're possibly getting eliminated. And how much back and forth and like negative back and forth? How much are people pissed about? Oh no, Joe's always got the last. He's always got the last say in these meetings.
Mm-hmm. I can't say that people are angry. I just think people are concerned. First of all, it's rare. Trust me, it's rare to have a group of coaches, and whether it's analytical guys or front office guys, to really get into heated discussions anymore. That used to be the thing. It was fabulous. I'll tell you, 2002, when I was with the Angels, that was a group that we had some very heated discussions because Soch permitted it. Soch was into it. You have Mickey Hatcher, you have Ron Renicky, you have myself, you have Buddy Black. You have a group of guys that were very opinionated and felt free to express themselves. So just being honest with you, it was a much more part of the landscape then, where people felt normalized or free to have that kind of discussion, where if they disagreed, they said it. I mean, there was times it got loud, and it was great. Whenever Mickey Hatcher ran out of breath because he was making a point, I absolutely loved it. That doesn't happen anymore. It's more a consensus built on information given and whoever the presenter is. But frankly, so there's not a lot of that. There's going to be maybe somebody will come to you and say that we're going to do this differently right now. Obviously, this isn't working. We have to try something differently. But the autonomous manager making a point that creates an argument, which Soch did and did really well, doesn't exist anymore.
Joe, I want to follow up. You had an opportunity to manage some of the most talented guys in the game, maybe the most talented player to put on spikes in Shohei Ohtani. What does he have to do with all the eyes on him, all the eyes watching? What does he have to do to help the Dodgers get to where they want to get? And he's helped them get there, but to achieve that ultimate goal, what does he need to do right now? Because there are moments where he's still so special, but there are moments where it looks like he just needs to take a deep breath and just slow down and slow the game down a little bit? What do you see?
Right on, Cam. I really think the biggest thing is like all these statistical information between runners on base and nobody on base. If he could just confine his strike zone just a little bit in situations to just go ahead and get on base. I mean, he's always going to be out there to make an impact. And believe me, nobody wants to win more than this dude. And nobody has a higher baseball acumen than Shohei does. He's maybe got the greatest I've ever been around. I've talked about him, and believe it or not, Jimmy Edmonds. Jimmy Edmonds was another guy, to me, that really thought things through really well to a point that most other guys could not do. So of all of his game, and I watched, I was taking a steam bath, so I was watching through the steamy window yesterday. The lefty, was it Banda that got him? Not Banda. Yep. No, Banda's on the
Vesia.
same team.
Is it Vesia?
Yeah.
Somebody
Somebody got him elevated in fastballs that he just kept swinging at. He can't keep doing that. He needs to just accept his walks. That's all. I'd say the one level, and of all things we're talking about with him, whether he's hitting home runs, driving balls in the gap, driving runs in, stealing bases, the biggest, I think, adjustment he can make going into this next level thing is to accept his walks if they want to do it to him.
Yeah, Manaea got him in this. Was it early in the second inning with the 94 up?
That must have been
what
it was. Yeah. Elevated in, just swinging, and he doesn't have to. He always believes he can do damage. And listen, like I said, this guy's sharp. He's sharp, and they're going to have different discussions going into this series. And if they bring it to his attention, listen, Joe, there's nobody on, just try to get on base. Just get on base for the next guy, kind of a thing. He'll do it.
I got one more for you on Shohei, two-parter. One, how different does he seem from when you managed him in terms of maturity, being in the league for a while, showing more emotion? And two, you try and see if you can get a few innings out of him. Not asking him, but what if he comes to you, Joe? If you're managing that team and he's like, "Hey, this is the moment I've been waiting for. My arm feels fine. I'm rehabbing already. If I want to do a couple innings here to help out a team that's a little bit depleted on that front in games 5, 6, or 7 or something like that, will you allow me to do it?"
Well, I mean, if all the medical information indicated to me, and he's been working out, he's been throwing on a regular basis, and everything says go, sure, I would do something like that. If that's no different than Kyle Schwarber, in a sense, coming back with the Cubs in 2016, blows out his knee in Arizona the first week of the season, 10 days, and then spends the whole summer rehabbing. Then eventually we're playing the Dodgers. And Theo came in and said Schwarber's going to Mesa to start working out, seeing some pitches, etc., and because we're going to get him back for the series. Okay, made sense, made all the sense in the world. And if all the medical people are on board and the work's been put in, that you feel comfortable with it, I see no reason why not. After having said all that diatribe, it ain't gonna I don't believe it'll happen. I don't believe the Dodgers will move at all in that regard. They have too much invested for the next season and beyond. So would I do it if all the needles are pointing in the right direction? Yes. Is it going to happen? I don't think so.
Yeah, it would be historic. It would be wild to see someone come back from all of that after this entire season here. Well, Joe, we really appreciate the time. Great to have you on. I'll plug the pod on your way out. I know you got to jump, but thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you,
too.
Cam. Be well, man. All right.
Thanks. You too, Joe.
All right, man.
There it is. That's Joe Maddon with us, World Series winning manager. Yes, and you can hear him with Tom Berducci. It's a great pod. Go check it out, The Book of Joe with Joe Maddon.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.